Have you ever felt like you're a god in deathmatch, but you can't replicate the performance in a match? Have you ever felt issues with the consistency and you just don't understand why? What is it that makes other players better than you? Welcome to Achieving Mastery in Valorant. It is not enough to have good aim. You have to know how to use it to unlock your potential, and in this series, we'll show you how. We'll break down and teach you 5 major skill sets to help you learn and improve as a player to become the complete package and to stack the odds in your favor on the server. Let's take a quick look at each one to give you an idea. Positioning is key. Where you are physically standing on the map can give you advantages or disadvantages based on the context of the situation, your options, and the game world mechanics. Once we start to speak this language, we can be in better positions more often. Let's look at one example. The high ground defensive advantage is intuitive. Using this example on Split, we can see how the player in the high ground position has a few distinct advantages. 1, he only has to focus on one position. 2, he can play a headshot position where he is only exposing the smallest target possible. 3, he has the ability to take cover by moving backwards and can quickly reappear in another position. And 4, he can play a multitude of off angles. The player on the low ground is working against all of these things, and he has to worry about other potential positions, low ground as well as high ground, making crosshair placement difficult. This is of course a more extreme example of one player having positional advantage, but there is much more that goes into it. Mechanics is a term we all know and love, but let's revisit it here. There are 2 main categories within this, which is movement and aim. So movement is your ability to meet the demands of the game, whether you're double satcheling into a site with rays and trying to use air control to effectively dodge your opponents or to maneuver around different objects, as well as still compensating for that crazy movement and aiming effectively. Or perhaps we're talking about player model awareness combined with movement to understand how to jiggle peek, whilst exposing your body as minimally as possible, using that wall for cover, maybe bait out some shots so that you get the advantage in the fight, or maybe you want to use that to get information. Perhaps we're talking about jump peeking effectively for information too, which requires very precise combination of key presses at the same time as well as some mouse movement. These are all very important skills. Equally, in terms of aiming, we're talking about minimum wasted mouse movement between points of focus. And we're also talking about crosshair placement to make sure that we're able to use our aim effectively. It's not just that we're able to quickly flick our mouse onto things or track effectively. Our mouse has to be positioned correctly, and we need to have the right philosophy when we're attacking everything within the game. The psychology of performance is a hugely underrepresented area in esports, but it's something that we will be tackling. Having a strong mental game is a huge difference maker in performance, and it starts with having awareness. We have to understand what is happening in terms of how we're talking to ourselves, and we need to have the awareness to understand what emotions we are experiencing, because the emotions are signals. And we can only do so much by reducing emotions, because really then we're only attacking the symptoms. For example, you could get really angry because something happened, really tilted, maybe you walk away and you're able to kind of blow off your steam a little bit, but when you come back, that trigger still exists. So our job is to understand these triggers and then to be able to resolve them. And that is the real key here in really making sure that we stay emotionally in a good place to consistently perform well. There's many other areas here too that are worth discussing, such as Garrett Hendler's A, B, and C game, understanding that we have a range of performance and our job to become consistent is to recognize what our range actually looks like and improving every single part of it. Teamwork is huge. It's a team game after all, so we have to understand how to work with our team depending on the environment. Whether that's pugs and matchmaking, or whether that's real teams, we need to know how to get the most from our teammates. And this happens within 2 domains. In-game and out-of-game. For in-game, we're talking about tactical things, strategical things that require game knowledge and understanding, your role within a team. And then we're talking about the out-of-game elements, which requires a good understanding of interpersonal communication skills so that you are able to communicate to your teammates, like recognize the kind of person they are, and then really tailor your communication so that you both can have a really good working experience and environment with each other so it's productive. Game sense comes down to 2 things. It comes down to game knowledge and it comes down to game experience. Now, the experience element is interesting because the experience element is about coding our intuition system, our expert intuition, because that's really what game sense is intuition. So we have to get good quality experience because you can have bad quality experience. If you're a player that just doesn't really think about the game and you only play, and you never study it, you never watch any better players, and you don't really care about improving, you're going to be making all of the same mistakes over and over again, and you're not going to be improving your decision making. By improving your decision making, you're giving your brain a lot more data, and as you grow and do this, you're going to have a lot better intuition as you start to understand the game more on a more intrinsic level. Now, there's two big elements to game sense which can be split between macro and micro. So the macro element is understanding how your actions impact on a big scale what the opponents are doing in sense of timings and what they want to go for in terms of rotations. Now, the micro element is focusing more on the 1v1 fights, fights on bomb sites, these more contained areas, assessing positions of advantage, outplaying our opponents by understanding, in the moment from a psychology perspective, what do they want to do, and kind of getting the one-upmanship in that sense and knowing how to kind of outplay them. That's the micro element of the game. From all of these categories we've just covered, we're seeing a huge amount of elements that improve our game that have nothing really to do with aim. Now, if you have really great aim to back up all of these fundamentals, then you're going to be a really good player, and you're going to be much better in the game than you are in deathmatch because you're going to be out-positioning opponents, you're going to be out-reading them, you're going to know how to work with your teammates better, you're going to know how to manage your own psychology so that you can perform better more of the time. And all of this will contribute to a better time in the game because you'll be improving, which everybody enjoys, and you'll be having more fun because winning is fun, and you'll be doing more winning, trust me. So with all of that said, I hope this is a good taster of things to come that you can find in the Achieving Mastery series here for Valorant.